lot of people think that CryptoKitties was launched, the first Ethereum ETH Waterloo in 2017, but that's actually not true. We rushed the product in a way that first month when we launched was completely chaotic. So what happened was we built this community on Telegram. At the time, Telegram was kind of like the Discord of today. Everybody built communities, crypto communities on Telegram, and we built like a community of 600 people. At the time, we launched a very mysterious, weird-looking website that had a live stream of real kitties in, I think, Illinois or something. And we didn't tell people what it was, so it was very odd looking and very mysterious, but like there was a live stream of real kitties jumping around and a button to donate Ether to an address. And anyway, we didn't tell people what it was, and we kept building that that narrative of like, hey, this is CryptoKitties and it's going to be new and fun. And then we built the product. We brought the alpha to the community in Waterloo. I can tell you the story in a bit about it. But then we built the product in basically a month and a half with a very small team, and it blew up. It was so successful at the time, and we barely had the infrastructure to support it. We barely had the instrumentation to support it. We didn't have initially like very good analytics. We didn't know who was coming, who was not. We heard complaints about it, but we couldn't handle. Ethereum was a disaster in terms of like in terms of handling the volume. Like, so people would try to breed their cats, and they would have to wait 24 hours for the transaction to be processed. And a lot of people were flocking to CryptoKitties, not knowing what all of that was, not knowing about crypto, not knowing about MetaMask, not knowing about Ethereum, and they would basically put the blame on us in a way. So we made a bunch of like little mistakes and large mistakes there, but in a way they really taught us about, you know, the challenges of onboarding, the challenges of the network, and how we needed to do a better job at each one of those things. And at the same time, they also taught us about how, you know, despite all of that, 10,000 people or more ended up creating accounts and ended up going through jumping those hoops in order to get a CryptoKitty and breed CryptoKitty within the first week, right? So it was like a strong market magnet in a way. So we knew that there was demand. We knew that there was like, hey, people really like this. And at the same time, oh shit, like there's so many things that are very subpar and that we screwed up in a way that we didn't build right, and that we need to do a better job at in the near future, right? So I think that really informed us quite a lot, and it's basically like almost like the foundation that built Dapper Labs later on, right? It's a foundation that led us to build Flow, and the foundation that inspired us to build Dapper, and you know, the same magnet and demand that we saw with CryptoKitties. We were like, hey, oh shit, we could do so much more. There's so many more opportunities in the intersection of entertainment and blockchain that we could be building right now, and that led to things like Top Shot. So I think yeah, definitely there were many mistakes, but I see them with a good, you know, in a good perspective nowadays. Yeah.
And I know earlier you had mentioned I think it was off the podcast about some kind of hijacking conference thing with where you guys first launched CryptoKitties.
Yeah. So it's interesting. So a lot of people think that CryptoKitties was launched at the hackathon, the first Ethereum ETH Waterloo in 2017, but that's actually not true. And it's not true because one, we were building CryptoKitties already for a little bit, for like maybe a month, and we wanted to launch this product, and we wanted to have a big splash in the community. But we had no interface. So CryptoKitties at the time was just like a a smart contract. You had no interface, you had no visual kitties, and we had a couple of engineers who were going to participate in, and they were CryptoKitties engineers, who were going to participate in this conference called ETH Waterloo, and Vitalik was going to be there. So we were like, oh shit, that's cool. That's a good opportunity. But we were, oh shit, we got to impress the community, right? We got to impress Vitalik and others, and really showed CryptoKitties in its best light. So we ended up building. And myself and Benny, who's another co-creator of CryptoKitties, and a huge friend of mine, he convinced me that we needed to go there. We needed to be there, and we tried to buy tickets. There were no tickets available anymore. It was completely sold out, and we decided to go anyways. We were like, all right, no, we're gonna go to this conference. We're gonna be outside, and we're gonna beg to the organizers to let us in, right? And that's what we did. We built kind of like a simple interface for CryptoKitties in like 3 days, and I even remember I was coding during the flight, from Vancouver to Waterloo. So it's about a 5-hour flight, and we were like finishing up things because it was completely broken and not working, and it was quite bare bones, right? Super ugly and whatnot, and it was on testnet. And we got the art, a bit of the art from the main artist working on CryptoKitties, Gilia, who's super talented. And we were like, all right, we're gonna go with this. We're gonna have the art, the smart contracts, this simple interface, and we're going to test it during this conference. And then we stood outside the conference when we got there for about probably 3 hours, waiting for the organizers to make a decision and whether send us home or let us in. I even remember the night before, we walked around the building to see if we could find a secret door or an exit door to make sure that we knew a way to get in case we needed to get in unofficially. But
that's
we didn't have to use that. They allowed us in. We missed the entire keynote from Vitalik, but they allowed us in. It was probably like 9 p.m. on a Friday night, and the idea behind this conference was it was a hackathon, and there was going to be a winner, and we wanted to win the hackathon because if we won the hackathon, we would have more stage time, and we would be able to present CryptoKitties to the community, and everybody would watch us speak, right? If we didn't win, we would be able to present to the judges and a small portion of the community that ends up watching those presentations, but not everybody that attended. So we wanted to win. The problem is we couldn't win with a project. We couldn't compete with a project that we had started coding beforehand, and CryptoKitties was already, well on the way. So not only we had to present CryptoKitties, but we also had to build something that would win this hackathon. So at 9 p.m. we were allowed in. We spent the entire night there. We didn't sleep I think we didn't sleep Saturday either. We didn't sleep Friday, we didn't sleep Saturday. We basically skipped 2 nights, and we were coding the whole time. And we came up with the idea of building a kind of like a mixed panel for smart contracts. And today we have things like Dune Analytics, right? That does a great job at that. But at the time we built a version of that. You could plug in a smart contract and see analytics for the smart contract. You could see events, you could see smart contract functions being called and how many times and the parameters and all of that. And you could break down by different arguments that the function received so that you could create segments. So it was a very cool idea. We're like, all right, let's build this analytics tool and let's use CryptoKitties as a contract so we can talk about CryptoKitties on the stage, and we can be promoting CryptoKitties indirectly because we're going to be talking about CryptoKitties over and over and over while we present the analytics platform, right? And that's what we did. We coded this entire thing in 3 days, and we decided to test CryptoKitties with the audience at the conference and collect the analytics, right? So this worked out so well because we were, like I said, we were wearing like very bright shirts. Everybody was looking at us and trying to figure out what we were doing. We were inviting them to play CryptoKitties, and we were telling them, hey, by the way, we're going to use this data to present on stage, and and people were interested, right? They were curious. They thought the cats looked funny. They thought the cats looked kind of cool. We were also not very sure about the style of the cat. So it was also a very interesting community test in real life, and people loved it. It was also when we introduced the emoji. I don't know if you go to CryptoKitties and you breed cats. There's a the breeding emoji is very specific and 18 plus. So we use that as an emoji during that conference. We introduced that icon. So it was great. It was a great way to test the product with the community live, hijack that conference in a way because we didn't have tickets, present the product to the community, and build something else that we could potentially win the hackathon with. And Vitalik was one of the judges for our project, and
wow,
and we ended up winning, which was great. With a side product at the time, we called it Rufflet. We won with Rufflet, but we ended up talking so much about CryptoKitties that people actually remember CryptoKitties more than Rufflet at the time, and that was the point, right? That was the idea. We also sort of like, we were not sponsors of this event or anything like that, so. But we ended up bringing a bunch of like stickers of like CryptoKitties.co and little cat jokes, and we put stickers everywhere, and people like the jokes, they like the stickers. We also we figured that instead of giving people business cards, because business cards usually people would throw them away, we decided to buy Pokemon cards and put a sticker of CryptoKitties on the back of the Pokemon card.
Let's go.
And that was because nobody would throw away a Pokemon card. We just bought a bunch of Pokemon cards on eBay and put a sticker on the back. And people didn't throw them away. They actually brought them home. And
that's fucking genius.
Later.
That's genius.
So we did a bunch of that, those guerrilla marketing things. And Benny was largely a huge influence there, and he thought of all of those little things, and I think that worked, right? And we hijacked the conference. We ended up winning. We ended up presenting CryptoKitties, and the community was really stoked about the actual product because that was a testnet version, and the community was actually stoked to try out the new one when we finally released it. And we ended up spending the next month and a half building the product. And launching it on mainnet, and then the rest is what I mentioned before, right? We were quite successful from the get-go. So